All right, we are live. I'm excited to dive in. Weiwu Zhang, thanks for jumping on today. Why don't we start the
Thank you.
conversation? Yeah, why don't we start off by if you could tell me what you're working on. Tell me what the project Smart Token Labs is all about, and what you guys are trying to accomplish in the world.
So, Smart Token Lab makes smart tokens. That's what the name says. So, by smart token, we mean tokens that has functionalities that can integrate into web services and the metaverse. So, example would be if you have a NFT from artist, then you can add function to it. For example, go into the gallery, either in the virtual world or in the real world. And this additional functionality made it smart. Essentially, they are still blockchain tokens, but we work on technologies to wrap around this token, make it work, make it portable, make it composable. That's more important. And we also have the wallet technology, where the smart tokens can be really smart in your mobile phone. Such as if you have a car token, you can start engine from your wallet.
Gotcha.
Yeah, basically that's what we do.
And one of there's a piece out on Medium that the CEO Victor wrote, who I interviewed before, and one of the things he said on here in the article was that Alpha Wallet is the most forked wallet on the Ethereum virtual machine ecosystem, and the first open source wallet. You at Smart Token Labs, you're working on multiple projects at once, right? So you have Alpha Wallet, can you explain kind of the different categories of the different projects? So Alpha Wallet, I understand. How do you conceptualize the different projects that are going on at one time?
We have an Alpha Wallet. It's not the first open source Ethereum wallet, but it's the most used one today. And then in open source realm, we have TokenScript. TokenScript is a core technology that enables smart token. TokenScript requires the wallet to be smarter as well. So Alpha Wallet is the first wallet that implemented TokenScript. The first version of TokenScript was produced like 3 years ago, and we enabled things like FIFA ticket on it, where the users can hold their digital wallet and enter the FIFA venue with the digital QR code generated inside the wallet. You don't have to go to a website to do that. And we have also Alchemy NFT, which is the technology to create NFT derivatives, packages, or creating little NFTs, split the NFTs off. All this kind of magic combined in one multifunctional smart contract. This is helpful it's the smart contract component of smart token. So all of these technologies work together to enable smart tokens. The company, the Smart Token Labs, is an umbrella that hosts all these projects.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful to understand. And when you think of smart tokens, or better yet, how should I think of smart tokens? I understand conceptually the idea of a smart contract is basically an algorithm that determines the functionality of different wallet configurations based on allowances and permissions. And there's a huge customizable framework there for different protocols, like Ethereum being one, and there's others. Smart tokens aren't typically how I've thought about it. How do you think of the conceptual difference between a smart token and a smart contract?
To answer that question, I want to maybe step back a little bit and talk about the shift in ecosystem. I believe you and most of my fellow community members in the Web3 space envision to have this decentralized web for quite a few years. And we have been working hard on it by first having blockchain available, and then we have dApps, which gives you access to the blockchain. But the question was never answered, that how do we go from having blockchain, having dApps to Web3? So if you look at today's technology, smart contract enabled web dApps, they don't look like a website that can serve the functionality of Web2. And they don't look like more user-friendly or powerful than Web2. If you have Web2 versus Web3, ideally it should be more powerful, more user-friendly. So today you can book a hotel in Web2. Can you do this with dApp? So we are missing this connection. How do we make this decentralized intelligent technology into something that enables decentralized web? And to me, the answer is quite clear. It is through tokens. So I just pick up on the example of booking a hotel. So if you can book a hotel room, then that becomes your right to stay in the hotel, and that will be a token. And by having that in a token form, you can enable other things. For example, you can enable a secondhand market for hotel rooms. You can enable your mobile AI to change your hotel's rooms if your flight changes, which was difficult to do unless you delegate everything to Google. The same goes for other types of tokens. So car token example, I talk a lot. So if you have a car token in your wallet, as a result of purchasing the car, then you can build new web services like car rental services, where you can just authorize the car rental company to use your car for the duration, maybe for 3 months when you're away from the country. And this will be what was very difficult to do without token. If you want to do this without token, the only way to do that is to convince Apple and Google to develop this technology, because otherwise there is no central point of trust where you can delegate your car token right to some company who will delegate it to the market. Now, so what I see here is token is the enabling technology, and for that to be enabling technology, it has to have richer functions. It will not be, if you will just talk about smart contract, just to talk about the rights that are transferable, then we will not be able to, for example, render the car on your screen and display from which date to which date the car will be rented to the company, and see the revenue coming in like once a day or something. We need this rich layer to make token really portable for this decentralized web to be there. So that is addressing your main question of what is the relationship between smart token and smart contract. Smart token is one layer above. In the future, if you think about Web3 websites like Booking.com, it will not connect to a wallet and automatically list all of your, how many ethers, learn how many ethers you have. It will not pop up a Web3 modal and ask you to choose from 20 wallets which one is your wallet. In the future, Booking.com or any Web2 websites that is going to provide Web3 services is going to upgrade. They are going to work on token level. They are going to check Booking.com, again as an example, they are going to check if you have maybe American Express privilege token, which gives you discounted hotel in the network. Maybe you have points which you can use to pay. Maybe you have preference, which is recorded in the token, that is at work with the AI in Booking.com. Maybe you have a event ticket, and through the event ticket, Booking.com can recommend the right hotel, or even give you a free hotel because the network, the event is connected with the hotel. So Booking.com will not care about your Ethereum address. They will care about what tokens you have, and they will react to it. And that's the future and seeing.
Do you think of this as let's stick on the example of Booking.com, because that's a good, simple one. So currently right now, I go to Booking.com, I choose a hotel room, I enter my name and details, and I enter a credit card. Your proposition here is that Booking.com will have a token layer. Now, do you see that as a Booking.com's individual token that I would need to acquire, like a Booking.com token, and that would be used in the secondhand market, or that's independent?
Oh, in this case, that's a good question. In this case, Booking.com Booking.com is relatively elaborate example because its function is very rich. So it is a web service that uses token layer that is provided by wallet, and the wallet has to be able to do smart things for that to happen. It can interact with smart tokens, such as privileged token like membership. And it is also a token issuer. So when you buy a hotel room from them, it will issue a token. Maybe Booking.com will only go halfway. Maybe they will say, okay, we accept tokens. We accept if you have a FIFA ticket. We give you the right hotel. And they don't issue a booking token. But I think there is a evolutionary drive for them to also issue token. Because today, people don't like to flip through mobile phones to change applications to do different things. They want the convenience, and that's what Web3 can do. And that is provided by token. If you have a token, hotel room booking token, then it is in your wallet and it can interact with other web services you buy. For example, if you can use that token when you book the airline, or you can your mobile phone's AI can sort out that because you need this hotel, you need to get a bus ticket from there to here. This kind of thing is only possible if you allow your customers to have your booking token. So maybe Booking.com will first recognize token, and later they will be an issuer.
And do you think the purpose, the driving, if I'm on the executive team of Booking.com and you're pitching me, do you feel like the primary benefit of the Booking.com, from Booking.com's perspective, is the secondhand market or greater liquidity of their token? So I guess, do you view it as the value of the secondhand market in some way for the retailer? I can't see how that would benefit Booking.com, but maybe it benefits the token so that the Booking.com owns a lot of their tokens, and so they're incentivized to drive up the value of the token. So a secondhand market would increase the value of the token. Is that the right line of thinking?
There are two stories, the bigger one and the smaller one happening at the same time. So the bigger story is that we are in a transitional phase. We have dApp, we have a lot of users, and dApp users have a lot of tokens, and these tokens will grow in functionality. It's a little bit like early days when users start to have mobile phone, smartphone, and they start to have apps. So one of the questions you might ask is, Walmart, why do you provide apps to the users when you can already open your shopfront and do a discount, or email your discount vouchers to the people? The answer is it's probably in the bigger narrative, it's probably not very important if you provide an app or not. But then again, you might not be there when everybody have an app. The same story goes with tokens. We have a lot of users using tokens, and once you have a privileged token, you will want to go to websites that accept that token. If Booking simply don't accept it, then they will slowly become irrelevant. We were not seeing this change happening in the last 3 years, but this year, starting from this year particularly, we are seeing this shift of mentality. We are seeing token holders start to behave as if the tokens identifies them, that a token shows who they are, what they can do. Once they have this belief, the web services that incorporate with this token will thrive. And eventually, Booking.com will have to do this. This is the bigger narrative. The smaller narrative is we actually had talked with the executives in Booking.com. The smaller narrative is they want to provide one-stop service for FIFA ticket holders, so that FIFA ticket holders have no intention of purchasing separate options. So they actually want to recognize FIFA ticket, but it was not possible because FIFA ticket was physical. If it was a digital token, they would love the idea of integrating that. The hotel is also a highly competitive market, and they want to find ways to engage their customers. If they know more about their users, it would be better. Now, right now, they can know about users from Google, but token is really like the conversation that can happen between the user and Booking.com on a highly detailed level. like how wealthy you are, like whether or not you plan to stay in Europe for a long time. You can show that with if your visa is a token, you can show that too. And this is not breaching the trust either. Normally, this is an issue because users don't want Google knows everything. But they are fine if Booking.com knows things about them at the moment of booking.
Yeah, I see that.
So on a smaller narrative, they have a reason to do that. However, on a smaller narrative, they have no reason to issue their booking code token. That will take years to change.
Got it. And do you think, I like that.
So the first to go will be privileged tokens, identifying tokens, like showing you have like the NFT holder logging into a website through that token. But eventually, website will want to issue their tokens, or they will be irrelevant.
Really? Okay. So Booking.com, for example, and the thousands, millions of other websites will have their own tokens, is how you see it?
Yes, I think token is today we see token as a heavy object. The future I see is a token where token is ubiquitous. You have a lot of tokens that represents your free ride to the train station for a month, for example.
So when we think of issuing a token or creating a new token, today it's kind of a big deal in terms of it requires maybe a white paper to be taken seriously, and there's development work that goes into it. But in the future, it'll be very easy. It'll be Booking.com will set up their token. It'll probably be the kind of work that goes into building a website. It's anybody can build a website. There'll be tools to help you build a website. It definitely takes work, but once you do it, you're set. And so the entire world moved on to the internet by creating websites. That was like, if you're a small bakery or restaurant, how do you adapt to the internet? Well, you get listed on Google and Yelp and you build a website. So your thought is to get businesses integrated with Web3, the actual thing they would need to do, probably a couple of things, is creating a token is the equivalent leap forward. So Booking.com, for example, creates a token. Southwest Airlines creates a token. And instead of having individual tickets that are centralized, they would have these tokens. And I'm sure the tokens would be customizable, so they could be transferable or not transferable, because some retailers don't want you to be able to trade. Southwest, I'm sure, has security concerns, as airlines do, so they don't want you to be able to trade tickets in that way.
Of course, a lot of token issuers will issue non-transferable tokens, but still, these tokens have their own merit. They can add functionality. So, if you have an airline token in airline ticket in your wallet, then it can run the token script inside and know that you are not near airport enough to catch the plane, and it can give you a warning. Traditionally, you have to ask the user to install an app to do so, but users don't like to install apps. And on the grander scale of things, transferable token opens new market. So although the token issuers may not desire their token to be transferable, evolutionary speaking, the transferable ones might outcompete the ones that is non-transferable.
Yeah, I would imagine the only reason that companies would not want you to transfer tickets or tokens would be regulatory concerns. But then again, if you think of FIFA or any sports arena, they do allow you to buy and sell tickets. Technically, no, I think they actually don't. They discourage it. They don't allow it legally as per.
They actually have their own platform for to do so. Yeah. FIFA has their own platform. Yeah, they don't hate tickets to be transferred. They don't like the idea tickets are transferred without them taking a profit. You can write a smart contract to do that. But right now, you do this through their own secondhand ticket website.
Your thought is, hey, FIFA, instead of using a secondhand website or using your own secondhand market, use a smart token, allow people to trade it all you want, and embed the functionality to take a cut, just like an NFT, where at every trade or every transaction, the creator of the NFT is taking a percentage, maybe 5 or 10%, whatever it is. The same can be true for FIFA. So you can sell this ticket all you want, but every time you trade it, transact it, we're going to take X percentage of it.
on one hand, yes, it's convenient, but on the other hand, it increases the demand. If you have a FIFA ticket as a token, then you can potentially prove that you attended every FIFA event in the last 5 years, which gives you a special privilege to do special things. Or you can get mercs discounted. Or you can if 100 people wants to have autograph from a football star, then you are top of the queue because you have the privilege. You attach these things, it becomes smart, and the demand for it will grow stronger. Ticket will no longer be the right of entrance. It becomes something that identifies the buyer. And once it becomes that, its value is greater.
Oh, that's a good way to think about it. So effectively, it's a relationship, right? I mean, I almost think of it as you're identifying a relationship with a retailer using the token as the means to record your identity and also the events that you've conducted, whether I booked hotels, bought cars, gone to sporting games. This relationship is what is typically done today through an account creation. So I would go to Ticketmaster, I'd go to whatever website, I create an account, and then they can see how many times I've stayed. So travel in particular with airlines will give out frequent flyer miles, same with hotels, because they have I have my account with them and they can track how many times I've gone. So the functionality is there currently on Web 2, but it's probably not as prolific or as widely adopted across different industries because of the work that goes into.
There are a few reasons. Account is Web 2 technology, and a token can outcompete them. So composability, interoperability, that's the major one. So if you have a account for a computer game, video game, then you can play it on different platforms. If you have a previous title of the game, you probably can buy the discount one from the future titles, no matter which retailer website you're getting it from. All these features that you build on top of tokens, if you build it with accounts, first the website has to be integrated. You can imagine that in order to be compatible with 100 tokens, a website using account model has to have a back office connection to 100 websites. That's hard to do and insecure. And most importantly, you need permission. If the other the other company doesn't want to connect to you, you don't get the connection.
I'm with you. With the retailers, I mean, do you see it as the retailers who are creating these tokens? There's a lot of decisions you need to make when you create a token. You need to decide, you know this better than I do, but you need to decide how new tokens are issued, if there's any burn, what the initial pool of tokens are. And there's different techniques to try to drive adoption. Right now, I would say, 95% or more of the tokens out there are speculative, and they're trying to draw value on the trading of the tokens themselves. And then many are actually tied to projects in a real meaningful way. As tokens become more connected to projects or retailers, is there going to become a standard playbook for how tokens are issued? And I mean, what if Booking.com decided to just mint new tokens and sell them to people? Does that even make sense for them? Yeah.
The playbook, yeah, that's a really good idea. I will borrow your word in the future. Playbook. So if you think about your business, tokenizing your business, there are a few directions. Do you want privilege token? Privilege token is a little bit like membership. Do you want to have product token, which links product-related services or websites? It makes more sense if your product is digital. Then, if you want to get a ticket entrance for Metaverse, so the token holders smart token holders can use that in Metaverse. If you just want your concert to be in Los Angeles, then you probably don't need it. But if you want to have a virtual concert in the same place with a VR in the virtual Los Angeles, you might want to have something that has that level of interoperability. And then you have a stake token. So if you buy that, you own part of the company. So there are like 4-5 major types of tokens, which makes sense depends on the business. We are going to see interesting development, and I think that is going to happen from now. When NFT was the really thing that enables people to think like token. Previously, we think tokens like currency, but after NFT, we are thinking about token more close to smart tokens. So from this year, we will see this unfold, and I don't know which type of token will be more popular. We try to provide technology to enable all these. It's a little bit like the web design software back in the days. We try to give token issuers what they need to play with this.
Yeah, that's a good analogy for it. It's really like you're building the tools that people in Web 1.0 and 2.0, you're building the tool to create a website, but you're building a tool to mint and choose your attributes for the different tokens. So do you imagine it like Booking.com and all the millions of other retailers out there would be able to go to your website and choose a set of parameters, enter in some validation that they are who they say they are, and then they would be able to issue the tokens all in one place? Is that the vision, or do you see it?
We're one level down, because we were talking about the vision. Now we talk about how it comes to play. We have a technology called token negotiation. It is a technology where the website expresses what kind of token they're interested in, and users can enable these tokens for the website. It's a little bit like, do you want cookie box when you go to a new website? you can see do you like token, but token is a lot more smarter than cookie. They are similar in a way, but they are a lot more smarter and composable. And if you have an affiliation network, then the website can hold a token which represents the right to access a certain type of token from the users without permission. So, example being American Express will give tokens to all of the network shops to allow this special privilege token, to allow these tokens through negotiation to know if the user is a card holder without asking the user again. We were supposing the user already clicked yes when they get the American Express card. So some of the negotiation, as you can see, happens automatically through this mechanism. Some of the negotiation is manually done. So example will be if you go to Tesla and you click checkout, and the negotiation happens in a way that Tesla website asks for a token that can emit Ether, because they accept Ether as a token, as a payment. Then it's up to you to choose from your wallet. You have Ether itself, which can emit Ether. You have a line of credit, which can emit Ether. Maybe you have collateralized NFT, or maybe you have the capacity to instantly sell something and get some Ether. So in this case, the website does not need to know what token you do. Unlike the previous American Express case, this case, as long as the website received a certain amount of Ether, they're happy. So token negotiation happens in various scenarios. That's the process of how the users use tokens on the website. Token negotiation also enables the website to issue new token as a result of the transaction. So one example being, if you buy a Tesla car, you check out with Ether, and in the same transaction, there goes in the Ether and there comes out the car token, which represents your ownership, which you can in turn use it to join the car forum to show you that you are owner, or go to an insurance website and get insurance without having to type the engine number and stuff. So it goes both ways. So the connecting technology between wallet and Web3 is token negotiation.
On some level, I feel it'd be a kind of a hassle for the users to have to get 100 different tokens. Like if I go through all the websites I have signed up accounts with, is there, do you see, instead of me using Dashlane or 1Password with 1,000 different passwords in there, would they be a very similar type of interface, but just with tokens? So I'd have 1,000 different tokens in there for all the different retailers, or do you think it consolidates more, where it's like, most of them use Ethereum, and then a few of them do more creative projects?
Different business scenario will require different level of blockchain security. So it's natural that Booking tokens are not running on Ethereum, which requires a high transaction fee. And then it will be the token's own property, which blockchain they are using and how to validate that. So the websites will be talking to tokens, which is enabled by a smart wallet like Alpha Wallet. You can think about it as a website getting a special channel to communicate with Dashlane. And Dashlane have the account, but they are way smarter. And that eliminates the need for account for quite a bit as well.
Okay, I'm with you. With you. Where do you think we are on NFTs? Do you think NFTs now are overrated, underrated, overvalued, or undervalued in terms of the market? Somebody said to me recently, somebody said to me recently that if you have a piece of traditional art, say a painting, the value you receive from the painting can only be when you're in person, to fully experience that piece. So if I put it in my room, I can look at it. I can show it to you on a webcam, and you can kind of see it, and you can even take a picture of it, but it's never going to be the same way to appreciate it as when you're in person. When you own an NFT of some digital JPEG or something, I'm getting the same value of you, even if you're the owner. And so then it becomes just proof of ownership as opposed to proof of control. If I own this piece of physical art, I can choose to never show anyone the art, or I can choose to give it to you privately. And then there's an element of control of the art and a higher level of intimacy with the art. You know, I can experience the art at a different level than you can. And I sometimes am skeptical on whether we're correctly pegging the value of NFTs, because everyone can experience the same art. Everyone, you know, if you just copy a screenshot, it's like you have no advantage if you own the piece other than just the record of the piece itself. I hope that was clear. I'm curious your response.
Okay. Speaking of the market value, I think we are. So NFT is the scarcity of NFT is difficult to defend. So it's like a public company. If everybody is interested in publicly traded companies, there will be more public traded companies. So if people are interested in NFT, they believe there's unique value in it, and it's a scarcity in it. For example, this is the first and only NFT that represents the first tweet ever in the world. So its uniqueness cannot be replicated. I question that because the first Facebook post is also significant, and the first web page indexed by Google is also significant. Once people appreciate the value of the first Twitter post, the other things will be tokenized too. So it's really difficult to defend the scarcity of NFT tokens. The more the demand is, the more will be produced, and the amount of money is limited resource. Also, like from speculative point of view, if you just want to speculate, a speculator need an asset that you can quickly exit. And an NFT being quite illiquid, it's not really good for speculation either. So I think we are mispricing NFT at the moment. But the way I see NFT is, I compare it to Baptist Zhang. It's not the God. It's the harbinger of the God that is going to come.
Say it again. It's the.
Does it make sense? It's the vanguard. It's the vanguard of the God that is going to come. Baptist Zhang is not the God, but he is the person to welcome Jesus. So that if it makes sense. So NFT makes people realize that tokens can be unique, and it makes people feel the connection to the token, and make the token identify them, and it gives the users the desire to make tokens do more. So NFT tokens naturally want their NFT to be on their designer bag or on their clothes in the Metaverse. These ideas wouldn't exist without NFT. We talked about ways to use token 3 years ago to people, and they don't know what we are talking about. But today, if we say that again, like what I said to you, it seemed to make sense to you, but 3 years ago, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. And I think NFT is the bridge. It opens people's mind to perceive smart tokens. So smart token is the God, and NFT is Baptist John.
I like that.
That's my view.
Yeah, I certainly see, because we live in a physical world today, you know, the vast majority of people's consideration, if you gave someone $1 million, they would think about it in terms of how can I benefit from that in the physical world? They would buy a car, they would buy a house, they'd buy a horse, they'd buy a dresser, they'd buy clothing, they'd buy, you know, most of the purchases we make are in the physical world. There's a lot that aren't, but most are today. And the way that we show status tends to be in the physical world. You know, what kind of clothing you're wearing, or the car you're wearing, that is certainly moving more digital. There's, you know, you can accumulate NFTs would be the most direct approach of this. But when you're socializing digitally, so if we're, you know, you and I to some degree here are socializing digitally, if we're actually physically in what I think of like the VR metaverse, if you're in that space and there's permission rights in that physical space, so that, you know, right on my wall here, if the only person, the only avatar, the only, you know, person in the VR world that can put this art on the wall is the person who has the control of the token. In that scenario, because it's encoded into the matrix that people are living in that digital space, then I see the value, because then I alone can appreciate the value of this piece. Like when you look at the Mona Lisa, I mean, I almost hate to use that example because I've heard it used so many times, but any piece of art, the owner has control of the physical piece. And I think you can only truly realize the value of NFTs if you're immersed in a digital experience that has the permissions to only allow the owner of the art to control where it is physically and who can see it. So I can, you know, charge people money to come into my room. I can create an art gallery of NFTs. You can't have an art gallery of NFTs today because anyone can see any NFT and they can just screenshot it and copy it. But if you were totally embedded into the digital space, you could, in theory, do that. I see it at that point. I mean, and maybe people are just so far beyond me that they see it before I do, but I don't know.
People are when people buy NFT, they are consuming something different than the value of appreciating it. So there are two kinds of interactions. One, as you mentioned, if you have $1 million, you can buy a horse. A horse normally don't cost that much, but just as an example, I have the horses I have is they are all below 10 grand. They are not super expensive, but we have a really good relationship with them, and they are very dear to me. So I wouldn't sell them for $1 million. The one kind of experience is real, like where I can ride my horse to the National Reserve here in Ku-ring-gai National Reserve near Sydney. I do that quite a few times a week, and I enjoy being in the bush, in the mist, and have a horse jumping over the creek. That's a pleasant experience. And the other is the experience I draw from social appreciation. So hard to admit it, but it feels good to talk with you in the podcast, and later know that a lot of people will hear it. It gives me satisfaction too. And what NFT gives people is the latter kind of satisfaction. It's not that only I can appreciate this NFT picture. It's everybody can appreciate this NFT picture, but none of them can deny the fact that it belongs to me. So what I'm consuming is, as an NFT holder, the fact that people appreciate and know it belongs to me.
I'm with you. Wait, let me ask you something. No. So when I think about the belonging, when I think about belonging and ownership, I think about power, because to own something is implicitly a claim on the ability to do something with it. If I own a piece of land, if I look at the ground, I say this pile of dirt right here, I own this land. Well, for me to own it, it only is a useful claim to make if that ownership is validated by some power, something that I can do with this piece. So if you come on my land, well, I can call the police and I can make you leave. That's a claim on power.
I think, what about love? Say if you are a movie star, you own so many people's fans' love. That's something you have because they love you, and you cannot rent it to anyone. And you cannot control if somebody stops loving you, or new people come to love you. But you still consume what you own, which is the feeling of being loved. NFT is playing that role. It's a little bit magical, but I wouldn't exaggerate its use. When the person becomes poor and realizes NFT cannot get them the $1 million they originally thought, that feeling of ownership that they can consume, that's suddenly worth a lot less. You want to own something that everybody wants to own, not really own, but only one person can call it owner. You want to have this feeling. Once the price is low, it means there are a lot less bidders. And then it's just like movie star losing a lot of fans. So that value will reduce too. So it's magical, but it's not limitless.
It's magical, but it's not limitless. I like that expression. Do you think there's are there clear cases now? Say, I guess if you fast forward, do you see scenarios? You see traps? Do you see places where society gets, we have another .com or ICO bubble where people get? I almost think this is a human psychology positive feedback loop that happens where it's like, hey, we're chatting about the value of something. Like, hey, Weiwu, I think that, pick anything, right? I think NFTs, because we're on it, I think they're going to become worth 10 times more what they're worth. And then this idea that the future valuation of something is drastically higher than the current valuation drives up price. And if you're wrong, if the actual value delivered to people by those goods and services. So in the case of the 2001 bubble, it was companies. And in the ICO bubble, it was companies, but it was through the mechanism of tokens. Here, it's NFTs. If you don't sit back and look at that NFT collection and think, wow, this is unbelievable, this is beautiful that I own this, then it becomes this kind of carried away positive feedback loop on valuation. I'm thinking about bubbles, and what a bubble is. And a bubble is when we collectively overvalue an asset class. And that the cause of that is what? I mean, what are your take on this? Am I making any sense? Do you view bubbles in this way as like a collective overvaluation of an asset class?
You are right. I think you are completely right in what you described. There is this phenomenon called reflexivity, where the self-enforcing power will go to the extreme until it cannot go anymore before it comes back. It will not easily stop at the middle. So in other words, if we don't have a few people who overinvested and later commit suicide, then the tide would not turn. Their sacrifice is mandatory for the society to turn the other direction. And if you say that we are experiencing .com bubble again, I think there is a good possibility that we are. But there are good bubbles and there are bad bubbles. And .com is good bubble because it created infrastructure spending, and it created Amazon. So Amazon is, without .com bubble, it's difficult to imagine it being the way it is today. Similarly, NFT might be a bubble, and we might have a crypto bubble in general. But I think smart token, which carries functionality, connects consumer, connects website, enables Web3, that's going to be the fruit of it. I think it's a good bubble if we can make smart token work and make it a building block for Web3.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm curious on the technical side. So you're a CTO. You presumably made all the important technical decisions. What were you doing prior to building Smart Token Labs? Were you working in a similar space, or what was your background? Maybe starting from the beginning, but I will try to make it quick. I invested in Bitcoin very early on,
since I bought my first Bitcoin in 2011, $5 each. I experienced a few times the exchange collapsed, but I kept accumulating Bitcoin. So at this point, somebody would usually talk to me and say, if you are so early, why are you talking to me? And why are you not having a private island and having whatever exotic drink? I feel this question is really curious. Like, why would I stop doing what I like to do? And think why should I stop doing what I think is important? Simply because now I have the financial means to not to do it. Like it's almost it's almost defeating the purpose of having money in the first place. So because you have money to do the things you're passionate about and the things you feel important about. So yeah. Then we go on with from that point on. I was deep in love with blockchain technology. I created a few tokens for different token issuers with different use cases. So I was in a few very early stage ICO, and some of them went really well. Descent is one of them. Then I see the limitation of keep doing new coins because it doesn't bring functionality. It's not very useful. It's useful to get somebody rich, but what is the use of it really? So that's when I turned to the banking sector because at that time, in 2015, 17, 16, banks were eager into blockchain technology. Commonwealth Bank of Australia had a huge project with a lot of money invested in blockchain. So I applied the role of the blockchain architect, leading the experiments there. We conducted a lot of experiments on how blockchain can be relevant to business or to society to improve the output. There was the R3 Corda, which is the blockchain widely used by banks, and I was in the global architect working group as well. So I have been working on the design of product all the time. The reason I left the bank was to start Smart Token Lab was because I couldn't convince the bank the importance of smart tokens, and also that banks do not see a decentralized future. They see blockchain's value in reducing market friction and creating new market by making everything into token. Therefore, there are more markets for them. But they don't see why bank is relevant to that picture, because this technology can just go. So having learned what I have learned already, I started a company with my co-founders. That's a bit of the background of my technology.
What about the choices of technology? What were you coding in maybe at the bank, and then what did you decide to build on first? What frameworks or technology?
It was when I was, at that time it was mostly Java. But what I learned, most important thing is it's not the blockchain itself. Blockchain itself has huge room to improve, and there are a lot of problems, scalability and such. But everybody can see these problems. And what people don't see is that there is not a way to make blockchain work for Web3. That these two things are conceptually related, but there is no technology to make that happen. There's no building block. There's no bridge. And that was the biggest pain point for blockchain to be actually relevant. Otherwise, you can keep building apps, you can keep building dApps, more and more dApps. Web3 will not be achieved by today's step. It will not be, we can keep building dApps, we can build Axie Infinity, Axie 2, Infinity 2. But going that way, we will not get Web3. We will get Web3 when people are starting to book ticket with blockchain. We will get it when people start to make friends and share social media posts and auction them. And buy cars that lives in a wallet. When that happens, we get Web3. So my goal has always been, since I worked in the bank, to close the gap, to build a bridge. And that's where I found purpose. And that's what our organization is about.
I love it. What a great background. And so it started on Java. Are you now focusing still on Java, or is there a collection of different languages and
in Alpha Wallet and TokenScript and Alchemy as well, the key technology is still JavaScript because that's the technology of the web. We have a token script which has an XML framework, but the XML framework is a container. It's like an outline what token functionalities you have. It's a little bit like defining HTTP has get and put and post. It defines like this token can log into the website or can have an authorization feature for someone to use it. And then after the outline is defined, the actual functionality is still carried out by good old JavaScript. And in the future, we might try WASM because it provides a kind of separation between token space and the web space. That's an experiment we want to try, but most likely we will stick with JavaScript.
I love it. And do you see hotels, if you were to break this down by, because I really like the way you describe the adoption of Web3 in reality. Building dApps, building more tokens alone doesn't change things for most people in their day-to-day life. But once you go to, we use Booking.com because you're working with them, but do you see different categories, say hotels, or maybe more broadly travel with airlines and taxis, sporting events? Gaming to me seems like it would be the biggest in terms of the early adoption of smart tokens, because it's a digital world in and of itself between the different games, and the consoles are kind of the centralized computation space. So going between games in a console, are there other spaces that you see as early adopters for smart tokens?
4 years ago, I was thinking about tickets. That's why we had the FIFA experiments and other tickets experiments. The reason being ticket is a redeemable token. It has a direct functionality, which is to redeem it to enter the venue. So its function is very clearly defined. But today, we don't think that anymore. The reason being that if you have event ticket, most of the users will not have Ethereum key. And you always have the problem that you are designing for 1%. So the natural direction of evolution is to enrich NFT and make them usable in games, and in turn make them usable in the Metaverse. That's the way to go.
And on the Metaverse, do you see the Metaverse as being what is the Metaverse to you? How do you conceptualize it?
So we especially after COVID, this is easier to explain after COVID. So your existence in the real world is split into multiple existence. One existence in Google Workspace at office, virtual office. One existence is your Twitter, it's called Twitterverse. One existence is your Facebook circle. Any copy of your existence have its own universe. So Metaverse is a collective concept that calls this just name that is given to multiple existence, multiple places where you can exist. Fortnite, for example, is a new place you can exist these days. Some people go there not to kill anyone, but to make friends. So we are going to see this more and more, and people will have a split identity and get used to that. The reason it's going to stay. Whether or not it's going to stay as the hype it is, like decentralized is the Metaverse and you have to buy land and it's going to be expensive, I doubt that. But the concept of Metaverse will stay because we already have the split identity and we already need a home for every identity. The word will stay, the concept will stay. Now the relevance to us is once you have an NFT, you will want to use the rights attached to it in Fortnite, in Twitterverse. You want to be identified as a token holder in Twitter, and then in Medium when you post an article, and all of the existence where you are, you might want to use them. You might even want to use them in real life. And a token script is so flexible that it can make token behave differently by the context. So in Fortnite, maybe you can engrave your NFT on your weapon. Maybe you can make that into clothes, and maybe you can connect that to Alexa and ask Alexa to do things the tokens can do. we try to make something that is really flexible and suitable for the building block, composable component for the future. And that's why I think the metaverse gives us a really good opportunity to grow. I wouldn't go into the land speculation in metaverse though.
Yeah, I'm with you. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like the metaverse is, or it doesn't, how to say this? It doesn't feel like the evolution of human interaction is built on scarcity, where we have limited land, limited this, limited that, and we all need to compete and drive up prices. And there's going to be people that don't have land or people that do. The beauty of the digital world is that there's just infinite of everything. I mean, there's no cost of production.
Yeah, the scarcity even in decentralized land is difficult to defend. Decentralized land has the same problem that someday somebody will make an even better virtual existence, and Second Life was replaced, but then somebody will replace it. Something will replace it. You can carry a few things with you, tokens, but land value, well, it's difficult to carry land across metaverse. I think it will be over too. I think that the idea that I draw pleasure from the metaverse by owning something other people cannot own, it will be over too. You will still want to own things, but for a different reason, for building connections, for enjoying what the thing can bring to you, not for the uniqueness that only you can use it. I think we will still have NFTs, and we will still have smart tokens, but uniqueness and scarcity will no longer be a thing in the next 5 years.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think that's awesome. Any special people or books or projects or other than your own that you'd want to give a shout out to? Any tokens you like or projects that you particularly like, have invested in or advised, or if nothing comes to mind, that's fine too, but anything?
I'm generally interested in second generation blockchain technology. Ethereum has a lot of limitations. It's amazing that it's still going on and still have a roadmap to address this. But from a technical architect perspective, some of these scalability problems are so deeply embedded in EVM itself, and making EVM away will make existing Ethereum contract stop working. So there is potentially a limit for development for Ethereum. I'm not entirely sure which one is going to be the second generation blockchain, but we are working on one layer above. We are mostly working with Ethereum, but our token technology is going to work in many different environments. Right now, I still think Ethereum is irreplaceable, and Ethereum is still the focus where everybody should look to into a new development. In the meanwhile, I'm also invested in a group of competing blockchain technology. I will not name them because I didn't read the white paper thoroughly enough to be sure what I'm talking about. Even as a CTO, even have been working in the field for so long, things are changing very rapidly. But that's where I would look at. For the audience of this channel, I suggest them to, instead of placing a bet in the second generation Ethereum competitors, look for the development in token space. Maybe there are business that adopts token technology and becomes an important issue that is both technically interesting, have a community, allow community to have a stake in it, and potentially profitable. It's possible. So I would suggest everybody to look into the token space.
Awesome. Well, I deeply enjoyed this conversation. I learned a ton. I congratulate you guys on all the progress you've made. Yeah. Any last thoughts?
Thank you.
I
Thank
also
you,
would love to see some pictures or video someday of your horses. That sounds like an awesome pastime that you have. Really fortunate space. Beautiful country out there.
Yeah, I can send you a bunch. Yeah, I can send you a bunch if you want to use that as a title picture for the
let's
video.
do it. Weiwu, it's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah. Thanks so much for jumping on, and best of luck to you guys and the team.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Awesome.